Happy Father's Day to all fathers, fellow fathers, and grandfathers, and spiritual fathers. You know, Father's Day is not as celebrated as Mother's Day, yeah? Mother's Day is always more special. I don't know why. You know, when a child is in need, they will not call to their father, they will call to their mom. Mommy, mom, mommy, mom, mommy. So when one day my son called me out when he was young, he called me, Daddy. I said, yes. Where's mommy? Maybe that's the reason. There's a reason why mothers are more celebrated, like in this video. Okay. Well, that's why they call mom first before they call dad. Yeah, there was a kid who was throwing his temper tantrum in a mall, and he was screaming, he was shouting, and the father was calm and continued to say, "Calm down, Tommy. Calm down, Tommy." And the child continued to throw his temper tantrum and all that. All the father did was, "Calm down, Tommy. Calm down, Tommy." And the people around them, you know, saw the father and the kid, and they were very impressed with the dad. And one of them went to the dad, "Man, you did so well. You were so calm." And he turned to the man and he said, "I am Tommy." Oh man, happy Father's Day once again. Well, this Father's Day, we want to honor dads who lead quietly, love deeply, and carry burdens few ever see. Like all of us, fathers face disappointment too. You know, Asian fathers are a little bit more strong, the silent type, more stoic than our partners in the West. They're more expressive. They will hug the children and all that, but I have never been hugged by my dad, or my dad did not even tell me that he loves me. But through his action, yeah, he loves me. But, you know, he's that strong, silent type. At 4 a.m., he'll wake up in the morning, and then he'll leave our home at 5 a.m. to go to Beach Road, where he had his coffee shop, and he opened his coffee shop, and then he would stay on till about 4, 5 p.m. He come home, had his dinner, then he sleep at about 8 or 9. That's my dad, and that's most Asian dad. They will do their part quietly, silently, and also very stoic. But fathers, like many of us, in fact, like all of us, do face disappointments. Disappointment is something that we all face. It's common. It's common. So today I want to talk about how we can overcome disappointment. I'm not sure why this is not working. Okay. Disappointment, as I mentioned, is a common human experience. If you have never faced disappointment before, I don't think you have ever lived. Right? Because we all face disappointment. You know, the minute we step out of the door, the world don't pander to us. People outside of our family, our lives, don't pander to us. They may disappoint us. I'm a psychologist, and I see a lot of patients who suffer from all kinds of psychological disorders, and the genesis of most psychological ailment is disappointment. It always starts with disappointment. If we can address and arrest disappointment, we don't have to go into disillusionment. When we become disillusioned, we cannot see beyond our future. We cannot see beyond our pain. That's what disillusion means. We only see our pain and we cannot see beyond. And when I cannot see beyond, then suicide is a thought, an idea that I may entertain. Because if tomorrow is going to be bad as today, why do I want to live my tomorrow? But it all starts with a disappointment. If we can deal with our disappointment, we don't have to go down on the downward spiral. We don't have to be disillusioned about life, disillusioned about people, because when we are disillusioned, then this is where we suffer from disorders like anxiety and depression and all that. There are many sources of disappointment, such as personal failure. You fail in your exam, you fail in a business, you got rejected, maybe you miss business opportunities and all that. And betrayal is the greatest disappointment, especially betrayal by a close one, someone you trusted. Many people suffer from childhood trauma because they were abused by someone in the home. That is a betrayal. And that betrayal, being abused by someone in a home, sometimes lasts a lifetime in that person. They say, blood is thicker than water, but money is thicker than blood. Money is thicker than blood. So in the Bible, there is a story of a failed business partnership. A failed business partnership between an uncle and his nephew. And the story was found in Genesis chapter 13, verses 5 and 6. Here it says, Lot, who was the nephew of Abraham, also went with Abraham and had flocks and herds and tents. Now the land was not able to support them because that they might dwell together, for their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. See, Abraham and Sarah, they do not have a child then, so Sarah was barren. And the backstory to this was Abraham wanted a son so much that he negotiated with one of his siblings, obviously, and asked if he could take one of his nephews as his own. And so I guess there was an agreement, and Lot was given to Abraham, and Abraham then took Lot as his son. And they journeyed together. Whatever that Lot had was given by his uncle, Abraham. Whatever that Lot knew was taught by his uncle, Abraham. Whatever the business venture that Lot went into, it was invested by his uncle, Abraham. And he grew. Both of them were successful in this family incorporated. It's called Abraham and Family Private Limited. And the business was so successful. When we are poor, we have problems. When we are rich, we have more problems. I read about, Singapore family, a wealthy family. They got into some kind of problem between the father and the son. This is very unfortunate. We wish and hope that it will not happen to any one of us. But they grew. The business was successful. So successful that they could not live together. There was so much strife. There was strife between Lot's herdsman and Abraham the herdsman. I'm not sure. I think the mouse have to be on that slide so that this can be activated. Okay, there was strife between the herdsman of Abraham's livestock and the herdsman of Lot's livestock. That means that it became politicized. The business partnership became politicized. It broke into two camps. A camp that was loyal to the nephew, and a camp that was loyal to the uncle. And so they had this politics that was going on. Any relationship that dwells in politics is often toxic. Look at America. I'm glad I left last week because there's so much turmoil now. And it was beyond a reason, what's going on there. But whenever there's politics, there's always strife. And politics in the home, It's painful. It's painful for anyone, especially for Abraham, who was like a father to Lot. He's like, everything that you have, I give it to you. I invested in your life. You know, what's going on in your life right now? You know, what you need. And this young man grew up to be successful and said, I don't need you anymore. These are mine, these are mine, these are mine, these are not yours. And they began to segregate. And there was so much strife between, as I mentioned, between Abraham and Lot. Blood is thicker than water, but money is thicker than blood. And then Abraham then said to Lot, please, let there be no more strife between you and me. I would think that I could only imagine the stress that Abraham went through. Every time he come home, what will my nephew do tomorrow? What's going to happen tomorrow? What kind of fight are we going to have tomorrow? Well, you know, what's going on in my family? What's wrong with me? What have I done wrong? And all these thoughts began to bombard in the mind of Abraham. And then he finally told Lord, I have enough. Let there be no more strife. Enough. 足夠夠了. And he told Lot, you know what? Enough. Let there be no more quarrel. Let there be no more strife. If you choose the north, I'll go to the south. You have the first right of choice here. If you go to the north, I'll go to the south. If you choose the east, I'll go to the west. You choose. And the Bible told us that Lot chose for himself a land that he felt was a blessing, will be a blessing to him. Unfortunately, he chose Sodom and Gomorrah. And he left. He left. And the two men were separated from each other. I can only imagine, you know, as Lot began to pack up and claim whatever that he thought it was his, and they began to pack whatever assets that they both jointly invested in, and then he moved out and said, I don't think he even said sayonara and bye to his uncle. He just moved out. You know, as he walked away, you can imagine the pain of the uncle, who was a dad to this young man. There go my legacy. And he took all my assets with him too. And they were separated. You know, disappointment, if you break the words into two, it becomes disappointment. They cancel appointment with one another. Disappointment. So there are 5 steps to overcoming disappointment. If you are going through disappointment, you know, this might be helpful. If you're not going through disappointment and someone you knew is going through this, you might want to help them with this. This 5 steps to overcome disappointment doesn't come from any scientist or psychologist. It came from God himself. Right in the book of Genesis, right in the beginning of time, God is already counseling people and God is wanting us, you know, to step up and live our lives to the full. He knew all of us will have to face disappointment. And he knew that Abraham went through that period of time where it seems overwhelming to him. The first step is that we need to listen. We need to listen. Because in verse 14, the Bible says, the Lord said, after Lot had separated. See, God spoke after Lot went off. So in the midst of this conflict, in the midst of any conflict, our mind is full of all these battles that's going on. What is he going to do next? How am I going to counter him with that? You know, in the midst of all this conflict, our mind is not listening. We need to be still and know that he is God. God spoke after Lot had separated from him. Maybe we need to get away, have a moment of solitude to listen to God. In the midst of every battle, in the midst of conflict, in the midst of anxious moments, our mind is always full. It's running non-stop. And that's why we need to get away to listen to the one who will help us to break through our pain. Many times you're confused with the voices in our head. To differentiate the voices in our head, you have to remember that God calls us by our names, not by our shame. The one who calls us by our shame, by our pain, is the voice of the enemy. You're stupid. How can you ever trust that guy? You see what you have done? Why you're so stupid? That's never God. That's never God. And sometimes we entertain those thoughts, those negative thoughts, that only reinforce our own shame. But God will call you by your name, never by your shame, never by your pain. Who are we listening to? There's a lot of disorders that's going on in America. When you see all these rioters, these people who are throwing Molotov and stones and everything else, you will not want to trust them, right? You will not trust these people. You will not want to listen to them while you're in pain. But sometimes these people are in our mind. They're throwing rocks, shaming us, right in us. They are living in our mind rent-free. But God spoke. You see, during moments of disappointment, who we listen to will determine whether we go up or we go downward on the downward spiral. Who are we listening to? God or the voice inside our head that tells us that we are nothing, we are useless people, and we ought to be ashamed of ourselves. The Pharisees threw that woman who was caught committing adultery at the feet of Jesus. And the Pharisees and the priests shouted at Jesus, "This woman committed adultery. She ought to be stoned to death. What say you, Jesus?" Jesus said nothing. He stooped down. He drew something on the ground. We do not know what he wrote. And he stood up and said, those without sin, you can cast the first stone. And none of them did. And they slowly dispersed, leaving Jesus and the woman. And Jesus looked at the woman and asked, "Where are your condemners? They are not condemning you anymore?" She said, "No." And Jesus said this, "Neither do I. But go and sin no more." Go and sin no more. And Jesus said, "Neither will I condemn you." Jesus calls you by your name. What's your name? See, many times, patients come to my clinic, they sit down, they introduce themselves, "Doc, I'm depressed." I say, "Hey, Chotomate, wait. Your name that you fill in the form is Tommy. Since when you change your name to depressed?" You see, we fuse ourselves with our pain. "I'm angry, I'm depressed, I'm anxious." Okay, if you are the disease yourself, how are you going to take care of your own disease? You are Tommy. You may be feeling depressed, but you are not the disease. But the enemy will try to fuse you with your disease so that you cannot comprehend what's going on in your life. We need to listen to God, what He has to say. Be still and know that He is God. And until God gets your attention, then He will give you what to do next. If God is not getting your attention, if you continue to listen to your voice in the head that's condemning you, then you know what? You shut God out. Step number 2, look up. Look up. You see, the very first thing that God spoke after Lot had separated from him was lift your eyes now. It's found in a New King James Version. Lift your eyes now. Lift up your eyes. Chin up. Come on, chin up. Don't let the circumstances around you bring you down. Look up. Look up. Where does my help come from? The maker of heaven and earth. You know, disappointment causes us to slouch, causes us to look down, causes us to feel that we are unable. We don't have that posture of overcoming whatever challenges that we have. We look so weak, and we do not know what's ahead. And when we start looking down, this is where disillusionment will come in. Like these two ideas that were fighting. They were looking down. They were locking their heads against each other. They were fighting. They were looking down. Those deers at the front was looking up and looking forward, and they saw a lion that was coming towards them. And then they were able to run away. But the two who was locking their heads at each other, looking down, they could not see the enemy that was coming. And the lion came and mauled one of those deers. See, when we look down, we do not know what is ahead of us. Look up. Psalms 121 verses 1 and 2 said, I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help comes from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of the heaven and earth. First, we need to listen. Listen. Then we need to look up. Look up. Look up to your source of help. Stop slouching. Stop looking down. Start seeing. And then, when we look up, this is where hope comes in. Because my help comes from the maker of the heaven and the earth. Step number 3, we need to learn to look around, look beyond. Look beyond. This is what God told Abraham. Lift your eyes now from the place where you are. Northward, southward, eastward, westward. If we are looking down, we are not looking at the opportunities that's out there. And God said, look up and look to the west, the north, the south, the east. And where your eyes for all the land which you see, I'm going to give it to you and your descendants forever. And I will make your descendants as the dust of the earth. Two things Abraham seemed to have lost when Lot went away. Number one, his wealth, his assets. God says, I'm going to give you all this. I'm going to replace those that were taken from you. Second thing that Abraham lost was his son. God says, I'm going to give you descendants. They will be as many as the dust of the earth. Many times when we lose something, we focus on the things that we lost. Negativity constricts our mind. When the door was closed, our focus was on the closed door. But God says, look up, look around. There are 99 more doors that I can open for you. There are more opportunities. Sometimes it is God who closed that door. Because God knew that door is not good for us. And he said, look up and look northward, southward, eastward, westward. You see, with those land that you can see, I'm going to give it to you. So if we keep focusing on the door that was closed, we are not looking at opportunities that God is wanting to give us. Like this little video here about these two boys whom the parents, or I'm not sure whether the mom or the dad, set up an obstacle course for them. And they were stuck. And one of them was exploring. He was looking around. He got away. Well, this guy is still stuck. See, when we are disappointed, when we are not looking around, we get stuck. God told, these are the instructions of God. Hey, Abraham, listen, look up, look around. Northward, eastward, southward, westward, all the land that you can see, I'm going to give it to you. There are opportunities out there, folks. One door closed doesn't mean that everything is going to be doomed in our lives. Step 1, listen. Step 2, look up. Step 3, look around. Step 4, arise. Arise. Because this is what God told Abraham. Arise. Walk in the land and its through its length and its width, for I give it to you. Yeah, we can look up, we can see all this, but if we remain apathetic, we're not going to get those blessings that God has given us, that God is going to give us. You see, disappointment, anger, disillusionment cause our fists to be clenched. When we are angry, when we are bitter, we tense our body system, and that's why we have a problem with our physical body, because our psychological state can cause our physical body to be weakened because we are tense up like this. Clench fist, shakes no hands. Clench fist, applaud no one. Clench fist, receive no blessing. How can we receive blessings when our fists are clenched? We need to release them. Stand up. Let's go. Walk. You see those land? I'm going to give it to you. Stand up and walk towards them. You see, God has promised the Israelites the promised land, and the promised land don't go to them. They have to go into the promised land. See, God says, I'm going to open these doors for you, but you're going to walk in through these doors. You're going to stand up and you're going to walk. You're going to walk and claim the promises, the blessings that I'm going to give you. You cannot sit there and feel that, I'm entitled, bless me, Lord, let the blessing come to me. No, you go to your blessing. Arise. Walk. Many times we try to raise our children to be confident. The Bible never tells us to be confident within ourselves, in ourselves. The only time the Bible mentions about confidence is to have confidence in God. Parents, never raise your children to be confident. Because after confidence comes pride. And when they fall, it's hard for them to come back up. In the study of psychology, it says confidence is overstated. Maybe the motivational speaker will try to get you to be confident, but not the Bible. The Bible tells us to be courageous. Never tell us to be confident, but he told us to be courageous. He told Joshua, just before Joshua were to go into the land that God has promised them, and he was to face the Jericho wall, God did not tell Joshua, be strong and be confident. No. God told Joshua, be strong and be courageous. You see, when a person falls, it's not confidence that pick them up. It's courage. Courage to stand up and say, I'm going to try this again. That's courage. Raise your children to be courageous so that when they fall, they will have the courage to stand up and say, I failed. I acknowledge that. I'm going to try again. That's courage speaking. Courage precedes confidence. When there's no courage, there will be no confidence. Courage precedes confidence. All right. Step 1. How many of us remember what step 1 was? Come on, shout it back at me. Step 1. Very good. Good. You're alive. Step 2. Step 3. Step 4. Step 5. Move on. We need to move on. Move on. Let it go. Let it go. Move on. You see, this is what God spoke, right? Arise, walk in the land. Walk. Move. And then you know what Abraham did? Abraham moved his tent and went and dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and built an altar there to the Lord. Firstly, Abraham did not build an altar in the place of his pain where Lot left him. He packed up his bag, he moved house, and went to this new place called Mamre, and there he built an altar to God. The past is gone, it's over. Now in this new place, I built an altar to God. And interestingly, he went to this city called Mamre, and Mamre means strength or fatness. There, he received his blessing. He was weak after Lot left, but then in the place of in this city called Mamre, he found his strength and he found his fatness, his wealth. You know, the Jews are like Chinese. Huh? When you see someone putting on weight, wow, fa cai ah! Fatness. That's what it meant. And it also meant freedom. Freedom. In chapter 14, 5 kings attack the place where Lot went to. And when Abraham heard that his relative has been taken captive by this enemy, he called out his 318 trained men, and Abraham divided his men to attack them, and he routed them. And then in verse 14, he recovered all the goods and brought back his relative Lot and his possession. Lot may have left him, may have betrayed him, but Abraham did not. Kept that in his mind. You betrayed me, serve you right. But when Lot was in trouble, Abraham gathered his men and attacked and recovered and brought back his relative Lot. It's about moving on. It's about forgiving, letting go of the past. When you move on, you set yourself free, and there was a redemption. Step 1, listen. Step 2, look up. Step 3, look around. Step 4, arise. Step 5, move on. When I was younger, I'm still young, I think at 65, I had so much disappointment because I was bullied like crazy in school. This is me in the middle, and on your left is my brother, and on my right, on my left is a friend, a common friend. I'm always the smallest everywhere I go. Even in America, you can see I'm the smallest. So my oldest brother 5'9", my second brother 5'7", then came me, the last child of the family, 5'2". It's like do re mi, Okay, I lied, 5'1". Over the years, I shrunk by an inch. And so I was bullied by my friends in school, in primary school, and they would pull my hair, call me all kinds of names. And one day, one of them shoved me. I fell awkwardly, and my forearm here was dislocated. It came down swinging like that. was dislocated. And when I saw my arm swinging like that, I almost fainted. And the bully who pushed me down saw my arm swinging like that. He also almost fainted. And the teacher, one of the teachers came and saw what happened, and was somehow, I don't know what he did. He fixed my arm back. So, then he told me, go home and go home, tell your parents about this, go to the hospital. Asian parents want their children to be doctors, but when it comes to the time when they need to see doctors, they don't want to see a doctor. They've sent me to a Chinese sensei. And I don't know what the Chinese sensei did. All he did was to make me feel even more painful. It was like, and put some ointment and asked me to go home. And until today, I could not reach my shoulder with my right hand. And since then, my mom told this brother here, you take care of him. Everywhere you go, you bring him along. And so he was annoyed. Me had to bring this little rascal everywhere I go. And I joined him in all his escapades and all the stuff that he did. His friends were my friends. His friends called him Toad, after our last name, Toke. It's a pun on our last name. They call him Toad, and they call me Tapo. And one day, one of his friends invited him to church in Toa Payoh in 1973. Guess who he had to bring along? Tapo. I do not know what the preacher preached that day, but at the end of his sermon, my brother stood up. And I looked at him. He pulled me up. I stood up too. I did not know what was going on. And then after that, he walked to the front. He pulled me along to the front. And we prayed by the pastor. That day, we became Christian. The day I found my salvation, I found my God. If it's not for that bully, my brother would have went alone. I was disappointed because I tried to sign up as an Air Force pilot with RSAF. And I was rejected because of my height. It's like, God, why do you make me like that? I was rejected. Man. That was in 1978. At the time, the plane that Singapore Royal Air Force was using was F-5E. I think now it's F-35. Then I remember my name, the name that my parents gave me. Guang Yu. Bright friend. Guang, bright. Yu, 朋友的 Yu. Then I remembered what I'm called. This door closed. God says, I have other doors for you. Guang Yu, you're going to be a bright friend to many who may be going through depression, through darkness in their life. And you're going to turn on the light for them. I became interested in psychology because my grandfather was suffering from schizophrenia. Every time I visited him, I have to go to the Woodbridge Hospital, the old Woodbridge Hospital, somewhere in Yio Chu Kang Road. And people will, he never acknowledged me as his grandson. He cannot recognize me. But I'm very interested in why these people are suffering from all this mental ailment. Why are they talking to themselves? One day we were out in the football field outside of the hospital because we were not allowed to go in because there were violence or fighting in the ward. And so we were waiting for our parents. And this guy, the highly functioning one, were allowed to walk and in the compound. He walked by me. He walked to a tree. He talked to a tree. He went off. And then I was curious. I went to the tree and said, hello, hello, hello. Anybody there? Anybody there? Hello, hello. Then I became very interested in psychology. Then I took psychology as a major. In the early 80s, there's no psychology major in Singapore. And so I told my mom, I want to study psychology. She said, what? Psychology? Mereka. And I looked northward, southward, eastward, westward. And I walked towards them and claimed those promises, those blessings that God has given me. So today, I'm a therapist, a psychotherapist, a clinical psychologist featured in a magazine like this. And I teach in the States. I'm the smallest guy in the classroom. If they sat at the back, they cannot see their teacher. I do training, corporate training. I spoke in churches in the States. I go all over. And this is my mamre, my strength, my fatness, my freedom. I cannot imagine if I ever get to become a pilot. Today I'll be flying and I don't think I'll be in the church. But God closed one door because He wanted to open another door for me. This is my mamre. Yeah, it's okay to be disappointed, but in those moments of disappointment, listen to the right voice, look up, look around, stand up and arise and move on. Just close with this story if you don't mind. I once had a patient who was suicidal. She was warded because she tried to attempt to kill herself. Because 2 nights earlier, before she was warded, she was out in a park at night with her boyfriend. She was about 18, and the boyfriend is about 19 or so. That was some time ago. And while they were talking in the park, a man brandished a knife, a dagger at them. As soon as she saw the dagger, she screamed and yelled out, "Don't kill us! Don't kill us! Don't kill us! Don't kill us!" Her hysterics panicked the robber. And the robber then attempted to stab her with the dagger. As he made a motion to attempt to stab this young lady, the boyfriend intervened and fought with the man with the dagger. And the young man was stabbed 7 times and he died on the spot. So help came, she was sent to the hospital. And at the hospital, she's screaming and yelling, let me die, I want to die. He died because of me, he died because of me. I cannot live like this. He died because of me. I am the one responsible for his death. She went to the bathroom, tried to break the mirror in the toilet, and wanted to use those broken mirror to stab herself. Obviously, help came and prevented her from doing that. And the doctors have to sedate her. Every time she's awake, she will call out, let me die, please let me die. I cannot live like this. He died because of me. He died because of me. And the medical director of the hospital called me up and said, Fred, would you want to take up this case? I said, okay. I read the brief and I went to the ward at the appointed time. I introduced myself, and she looked at me and she said, I don't need any doctors, I don't need any psychiatrists or psychologists. If you want to help me, let me die. Let me die. He died. My boyfriend died because of me. Because of me. Let me die. I cannot live like this for the rest of my life. I told her, look, I know you're in pain. Just give me 5 minutes. In that kind of situation, we cannot have a 1-hour session. Tell me how you feel. We can't. So I had to be quick in my intervention. 5 minutes. All I said was, give me 5 minutes. And she looked at me. In that 5 minutes, after that, you allow me to die, I will give you this 5 minutes. I said, no. And her parents who were there in the ward tried to coax her and said, give this doctor 5 minutes. After all these exchanges have gone beyond 5 minutes now. And then she sat by her bed, she looked down, and she kept quiet. I took that silence as a consent for me to start my 5 minutes. So I began by saying, I'm so sorry for the loss of this brave young man. And she looked at me, and she asked, what's your point? What's your point? He died because of me. I said, no. He did not die because of you. He died for you. He fought that man with a dagger because he wanted you to live. if you are successful in your suicide attempt, his bravery, his intention to save you would have been wasted. He died for you and not because of you. And then she slumped even further. She then processed what I was telling her. And there was silence in the ward. Total silence. Just like right now. Nobody wanted to interrupt her processing. After about 10, 15 minutes, she looked up and said to me, "Okay, I'll leave." See, sometimes when we are so negated by our disappointment, we fail to see the perspective, the right perspective of life. And for God came to Abraham and said, "Listen, look up, look around, stand up, arise, move on, and move on to your Mamre." My question is, are you ready for your Mamre? All of us may be disappointed. Fathers, when you are disappointed, look up, look around, arise, move on, and move on to your Mamre. Is it a bad time to ask, are you ready for your Mamre? Are you ready to go where God has designated for you to be blessed? Let us pray. God, thank you for your word. Pray for all the fathers that are here, that Lord, when they go through disappointments in their life, you will always be with them, that they will listen to your voice, instructing them, encouraging them, empowering them to look up, to look beyond, to rise, and to move on, and to move to a place of blessing, their Mamres, where they will find strength and they will find blessings. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. God bless you.